All right, well, good morning and welcome to another Council President's Briefing. I wanted to bring you up to date about a few things that we are working on here in Rockville when it comes to some pending legislation and also some things that we're going to be focused on and concentrating on in Annapolis. So I'll talk about some of the things here and then talk about some of our agenda that we're looking to undertake in Annapolis, which will take up a key portion of today's discussion. First and foremost, I wanted to talk about school bus cameras. You recently heard the report that came out about from the 10 cameras and the number of incidents in which we actually issued tickets. Myself, along with Councilmember Phil Andrews, who chairs the Public Safety Committee, will actually be holding a joint update meeting shortly. We're looking at trying to find a date on the schedule to do that, so that we can understand more about the implications of what this means, the frequency of those, and where they actually were location-wise. I think that as we increase the number of school bus stop arm cameras, that we'll see that we have a much larger problem than we originally thought we did. As I continue to go and speak to elementary schools throughout the county, I was just at one on Friday, and asked the students there in the classroom how many of them have seen a car pass by their school bus. And I would say about 80 to 90% of the children raised their hands. It's very concerning, and I think, again, that it's a problem that we really have just scratched the surface of. And so I'm really looking forward to making sure that we can provide safe egress for our children to get on school buses, and that will partially be accomplished by us really ramping up our school bus camera program. Sticking with schools, I wanted to talk about the Montgomery County Public Schools operating budget that we just saw and was released. And I understand that there was a negotiation that's been struck with unions. I do applaud the school system for their attempt at trying to strike a 3-year balance in terms of the increases there. We will be taking this up in the Education Committee and talking with stakeholders about what the implications are for the budget. I've put in a call to the county executive to see where he is now that we've seen what we think is a finalized agreement with the unions. And so there's more to come on that issue, but did just want to let you know we're in the preliminary phases of those discussions. So any initial reactions are just that we certainly understand the school system going in the direction that we've been going in terms of looking at a multi-year approach. The challenge, of course, is always our limited ability to work within the framework of maintenance of effort. And I'll be touching on the maintenance of effort piece as we talk about some of the Annapolis bills that are being sponsored currently at this time to address some of our maintenance of effort concerns. I wanted to talk about cybersecurity. There has been a lot of talk about our cybersecurity move here in the county and what we're looking to do regarding our biotech innovation space that is now going to be allocated towards cybersecurity. We've heard from a few that have had and expressed concerns about us using this now space that was deemed for our biotechnology to now be used for cybersecurity. We can all agree, and you saw it highlighted in an article in the Washington Post on the front page, cybersecurity is an issue that is at the forefront. Quite frankly, it's an issue that Montgomery County has not been at the forefront of when it comes to attracting businesses and being a leader in innovation. And so this certainly represents an opportunity for us to continue with places like Lockheed Martin that have set up a great hub here for innovation in cybersecurity, for us to continue to do that with new and upstart companies. For those that are concerned about the showing of Montgomery County's commitment to biotechnology, I will remind people that we have a biotech innovation hub that's at Montgomery College, Germantown. I know that some of the folks that were in the space in Rockville have actually already moved into that hub in Germantown, and there are future plans of expansion in my conversations with Dr. Sanjay Rai with Montgomery College about that facility. And so we hope to be able to accomplish the best of both worlds, to be able to make sure that we are continuing our commitment to biotechnology and remaining a biotechnology force while also expanding and opening up on our ability to really start tackling being a player when it comes to the cybersecurity sector. I wanted to talk about 10 Mile Creek. 10 Mile Creek continues to be deliberated on by the council. This Tuesday will represent the potential for some final decisions to be made regarding 10 Mile Creek from both the Planning, Housing, Economic Development Committee and the Transportation, Energy, and Environment Committee. And then those decisions will then be forwarded to the full council for deliberations on the 25th. There are certainly still some concerns that remain about making sure that we can protect the environment while at the same time trying to deliver on the vision and spirit of the master plan of Clarksburg. I will say that one of the things that was very clear out of our last meeting in 10 Mile Creek is that for those that were concerned about the water drinking quality via the reservoir, it was very clear from the experts that were asked by Councilmember Florine whether or not that was an issue, that is no longer at the forefront. This is about protecting 10 Mile Creek itself. It is not about the drinking water. That's a separate issue that we might be taking up at some point in talking about an overall approach of how we look at reservoirs throughout the region, not just here in Montgomery County. And it's actually something I've mentioned to you before, that we're having a Washington Metropolitan Region Council Chairs meeting, and that's something that will actually be added to our agenda to talk about, and to talk about our emergency approach when it comes to drinking water reservoirs and making sure that we're prepared for the future. Last but not least, let's talk about the state. There are a number of bills that are before the state right now. Minimum wage is one of the key ones that we're paying very close attention to. We will have an update from Melanie Wenger, who's our Intergovernmental Operations Director, later on today. And we'll be talking about the implications of some of those bills. Of course, as no surprise, there are a myriad of bills that are entered from those that restrict localities from enacting a minimum wage to those that expand on the ability for us to do so. Montgomery County, I think, as a whole, is committed to making sure that we protect our abilities. We've always believed in our ability to be able to do what we can, should we need to step up and respond if there's a need. And so from a local home rule perspective, we continue to be very cognizant of some of the attempts that are being made to try and restrict that when it comes to minimum wage. And so we'll be paying very close attention to these debates as they come about. With regards to speed camera legislation, there's been a lot of talk about some of the controversial practices that are going on in the Baltimore region when it comes to the speed cameras and the citations that are being issued. So we want to make sure that our program does not fall under the auspices of something where they might not have been following the exact procedures as they should have. So we'll be watching those bills very closely as well. Again, no surprise, there are some bills that are being introduced to do away with speed cameras altogether, as well as some that restrict the ability for localities to be able to implement a speed camera program. And so another thing that we think has certainly increased the safety of our region, especially around our schools and construction sites when it comes to our speed cameras. And so we look forward to be able to protect that program as much as possible. Last but not least, school construction continues to be the #1 priority for our council and the county executive in Annapolis. We just completed a meeting with our school board and our superintendent of schools just this morning in the Education Committee, where we talked about the possibility of us achieving these additional funds. I will say something that struck out as something that needs to be highlighted. The difference between enrollment growth over the past 13 years between Montgomery County and Baltimore City was 30,000 students. A 30,000 student swing between 2000 and 2013 between Montgomery County and Baltimore City. Yet Baltimore City was able to leverage in the state to have additional capacity given to its school construction program for its failing infrastructure, for its struggling infrastructure. I think that we have a combined need. Both some of our infrastructure is certainly starting to fail, but we also have a capacity issue. And when it's something that's so striking as 30,000 students, that certainly rises to the level of where special consideration needs to be given to this region. And so it's my hope that we will be successful in being able to leverage the additional school construction dollars, but I think with numbers like that, it really is one that highlights the problem that we continue to see here in Montgomery County. We continue to grow, but we continue to see less and less school construction dollars that are flowing into the county. So we hope that in working with our state delegation that's been a true champion for us in the past, that they will be successful in this new endeavor, making sure that we can address some of the needs of our students throughout the county. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you for questions.
What bill is this that would restrict the county governments from setting minimum wage?
There's and I don't have the exact bill number, so I'll have to get that to you, but there's been a number of bills that have been introduced by a number of people all on the subject. Ones that say that you can and strengthens the ability, some that tie in support from dollar, some that actually say that no, you couldn't set it as a locality and it would be done by the state. Those are all bills that are floating around in Annapolis at this point. So I don't know if I don't have the bill numbers, but we can get that for you because I'll be in Annapolis later on this afternoon.
Okay.
Ryan?
Following up on that, I guess, what's your take from talking with leadership in Annapolis on which bill? Do you see a bill? Do they see a bill coming to the floor that has a restriction for counties, or are they heading more in another direction?
I think it's still too early to say. I don't think that anybody said that any particular bill is the front runner, if you will, at this point in terms of what this is going to look like. I know that there are a number of concerns from surrounding jurisdictions that I heard at MACO that are very concerned about what kind of a bill moves forward and the implications for some of the rural jurisdictions might be. And so there's a lot of talk about not having a bill at all. I mean, that's one of the options as well, which would create a challenge for us. But I think that when it comes to a regional competitiveness standpoint, you know, we struck a deal with both the Prince George's County Council and the District of Columbia. But I think that overall, as I've always said, you know, we stood out as the leaders on this issue, but certainly we wanted to make sure that from a regional standpoint, we were also protected to some extent. So I think that for us, you know, this is just going to be something that we're going to have to watch and wait, and I don't think that it's necessarily going to be decided early. This is going to probably be a bill that comes down to some of the closing days of session.
The Senate President has said it's a tough sell. Are you going to be meeting with him today?
I won't be meeting with the Senate President today. I'll just be meeting with the Speaker. But in some of my subsequent trips to Annapolis, I will be meeting with the Senate President as well to talk about a myriad of issues from school construction to also minimum wage.
And he said 1010 is too. He doesn't think 1010 could pass the Senate. What if it's a lower number? What the effect that would be on Montgomery County?
Well, you know, from Montgomery County's perspective as a whole, I think that any increase is a positive when we're looking at for all employees throughout this region. So that's a tremendous lift. The challenge is, again, from a competitiveness standpoint, I personally have always said that somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 made a lot of sense for us. That was actually some of the initial legislation that was talked about at the very beginning of our debate. And so I think that something along those lines leaves us with comfort. Anything that goes closer to the $2 or $3 differential becomes problematic. But, you know, so our hope is that, again, we lift regional jurisdictions in terms of making sure that their working poor can have some sort of an increase and also protect our competitiveness as a region.
Greg, would a state bill forbidding localities from setting their own minimum wage, what effect would that have on the law you guys passed? Would it automatically supersede
Well, the devil's in the details of the bill, and so it would depend on how it was crafted. It could be that anything moving forward after could be. So there's a whole bunch of different things regarding preemption that could play out. It could be that anybody who's already passed theirs can keep theirs, but anybody in the future can't do it. Those, to the standpoint, to the other extreme of to where they actually go retroactive and say that nobody's allowed to do anything. I mean, those are all discussions that all of us around this table have heard. The question is that actually something that's going to come to fruition? I just don't know the answer to that.
Where are these bills coming from in terms of support? Restaurant industry, small businesses, who's pushing it?
I haven't heard of any of the bills specifically tied to any particular entity. I know that we've received comments from individuals that are individual business owners that express some concerns about the efficacy of a local minimum wage versus state minimum wage. So we've heard from them, but not as an actual true entity or a representative agency saying that they're pushing one bill or another. I haven't seen that to this point.
When you talked about 10 Mile Creek and the drinking water not on the table as an issue, does that mean you dismiss the arguments that say the development up there will in fact affect drinking water somewhere down the line?
Well, what I think that the experts said was that drinking water was not would not affect or not be affected by potential development in the 10 Mile Creek area. That doesn't mean that it's not going to have an effect on 10 Mile Creek. It does not mean that it's not going to have an effect on our environment and how we need to treat stormwater runoff. Those are all things that are certainly very valid points, and I think were reflected in both the planning board staff and the planning board's recommendations as far as what they proposed in terms of reducing the amount of development and the impervious restrictions that they placed on those sites. But at the same time, I think that the conversations that drinking water would somehow be fouled by some sort of development that was recommended by either the planning board or planning board staff draft, it was clear from the experts' testimony at this most recent meeting that that was not the case.
Who were the experts?
That was both our Department of Environmental Planning and WSSC.
Regarding the cameras, or the school bus cameras, I haven't been here, so what was the report that you heard and saw? What were the things that the results you were getting from this?
Well, basically that in that 1 month period since they had been activated, we saw 10 citations that were issued, and that's concerning because what I told the children that I spoke to is that meant that 10 children's lives were at risk. God forbid we ever had a child that died at the hands of someone passing a school bus with their stop arm extended. And many of you know that the story's been reported in the past that I saw it happen right before my eyes where my daughter was almost hit by a car. So I understand how dangerous this is. And so it really is important for us from a public safety aspect. This is not about financial. This is about making sure that these kids are safe. My concern is that there was a lot of publicity that was put out. This was mainstream media. This wasn't just in the paper, no offense, or on the radio. This also went on via television, mainstream media, informing people that these cameras were going out. And to still see that many incidents in just the limited number of cameras that we have is extremely concerning. That means that either people still aren't educated about the dangers that are out there or about the law, or that they don't care. And either way, we've really got to get a handle on this and make sure that people understand how much of a danger this is.
When did that report come out?
That was last week.
Who
Yep.
put it out?
Trying to remember now. I think it was reported by our police department, and the police department actually reported on the number of citations that we had issued.
Huh.
And again, 10 in 1 month.
Yes.
all over the county? Did they?
All over the
pinpoint
county and
areas?
different, and we can provide you the information as to where those are.
Yeah.
And you're looking at, you said you're having a meeting, so would it be to expand, to have more cameras? or-
That's certainly a part of the discussion, would be whether or not we need to ramp up. Keep in mind, there are another 15 cameras that are slated to go on to additional school buses by the end of this month. So by the end of February, we would have increased the number, and we'll see what kind of numbers those pose also. It may have been just a one-time rise in terms of the number, and we'll see that number decrease. My concern is that based on the trend and what we've seen and what I continue to hear from school children throughout the county, that this is really just the ice on the. This is really just icing on the cake. There's a lot more that's beneath the surface on this. So.
And what school did you say you spoke in?
This was at Potomac. Trevilla, thank you.
Trevilla.
Yes, at Trevilla Elementary.
And when they briefed you, they just gave you the data, they didn't show you the pictures of the cars going by?
No, I haven't seen the pictures at this point or any of the corresponding backup information. But because a citation was issued, again, that has to go through the same processes that any of our other camera tickets go through. So law enforcement officer would have already had to have seen and signed off and saying that this is truly indeed a violation. So these are, violations, no doubt. There's no question. And so that makes it very concerning.
And you abstained on the Cabin Branch, the outlet mall
Mhm.
decision. Can you elaborate on that?
Certainly. So when it came to Cabin Branch, this is before our discussion that we had with our Department of Environmental Planning and WSSC regarding whether water quality in our reservoir was going to be impacted by anything that came out of the surrounding the surrounding watersheds. And so because we were talking about a massive increase in the amount of development that was going to be feeding into Little Seneca Reservoir, I wanted to be sure that we had all of the information first. Now, if I had had that comment that was made by DEP and WSSC before the vote would have been very different. But now that we have that information, that'll be extremely helpful. So, and I would have supported the development.
Can you go back and modify your vote? Can you do that? Is there a provision for that?
I'm not sure. I think for some of them we can, but I'm not sure about that policy. I actually haven't found out whether or not a day after, whether or not that's possible or not. That's something I haven't explored, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's allowed. And it was actually for the folks who had asked the question about where it was reported. It was the Gazette that actually ran the story. Lindsay Powers was a staff writer who had written about it, about the 10 citations. So there's that's where the initial report came out.
Something unrelated in terms of the heroin overdoses that have been reported statewide and then locally. Delegate John Carden is introducing legislation that would hold harmless anyone who calls. Let's say there are people using, and one of their friends overdoses, and they call for 911. The theory being that people don't call because they fear that they'll be arrested. Is that something you would support? And has there been talk about that here?
We haven't talked about it, but that's something that'll actually probably come up in a discussion that we have in Damascus about drug awareness and really curbing some of the challenges that we're facing regarding heroin addiction. And so I think that that's an intriguing bill. I'd have to look at the details, but I think that we have to be creative about how we approach this problem. It's unfortunate that a lot of problems don't get attention until they reach the national spotlight, and with the recent death, that really has started to highlight the challenges of heroin addiction, which we have all said has always been a national epidemic. It's not something that was just here in Montgomery County, wasn't just here in Damascus, wasn't just in Maryland. And so I think that from that perspective, my hope is that both the federal government as well as state when it comes to our Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. We'll take another real look at this in terms of making sure that we have an appropriate number of treatment beds that are there for juveniles that are experiencing challenges with heroin addiction, and then also our programs in terms of being able to help identify when there might be heroin addiction within our school systems via our school health nurses and others. All different kinds of ways in which we can certainly try and do our part to stem this national epidemic will be important. Any other questions? All right. Well, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Again, we'll do it next Monday.